Okay, so what we're going to try and do real quick is I'm going to try and talk through some of the stuff that I know we didn't get to in every single class. And I want to make sure you guys are prepared, and this is my way of doing it. You can access this whenever. Ready? Okay, so let's start with the four regions. We have the coastal plains, the north central plains, the Great Plains, and the mountains and basins. So, starting with the coastal plains, let's point out what's real important around here. The coastal plains, most of the rivers exist in this area. That's important. We have all these rivers. They all go the wrong way towards the Gulf. You can remember the name because you can remember we're on the coast. You have the north central plains, and that's easier to remember the name because it's in the north and it's in the center. The Great Plains. The Great Plains are this little area that is really actually a great area, and it's in the middle, and it's pretty plainy, and I'll explain that in just a second. And then you have the mountains and basins over here. Now what's really cool about this map is, besides my fantastic art that's being added on top of it, the art that came with the map is just an overlay, and you can actually see, if you look at all these little bumpies that you see over here, you can see them beneath this too. And then the bumpies are rises in elevation. And especially when they get real visible like this, that means it's a mountain. And so when you look at all little bumpies here, you find out why this is the mountain and basins region. It's a bunch of mountains and a bunch of basins. The Great Plains is pretty bump free. I mean, there's a little bit here. There's the hill country-ish area here, but it's pretty bumpless over here. And the North Central Plains is, again, pretty bumpless. And the coastal plains, like, don't even get me started. We are flat. I mean, wetlands, but we're flat, right? So looking at the borders, the coastal plains is the only one that touches the Gulf. It's the only one that touches Louisiana, and it's the only one that touches Arkansas. Oklahoma is a little less choosy. It likes three regions. It likes the coastal plains, the North Central Plains, and the Great Plains. New Mexico's even less choosy. It likes the Great Plains and the mountains and basins, and that's it. It wants nothing to do with the coastal plains or the North Central Plains. It wants our mountainy, Great Plainy area. That's it. And then the mountains and basins, the Great Plains, and the coastal plains all touch Mexico. And I think that's because Mexico's a little sad, because we have this giant river, the Rio Grande, that separates us from Mexico. And I feel like Mexico misses us, and so it's really trying to reach out to every region it can. It can't touch the North Central Plains. It's way up here, but it can get to these three, and it wants to connect. Mexico misses us. There was a time we were part of Mexico, and I don't think Mexico really let go of that emotionally. So they're trying to connect. They're trying to reach out. That Rio Grande is separating us, but they want to get in touch with as many regions as they can. So now we need to go over rivers, because it's another area we didn't get to as well as we could have. We have a jump in the size of the screen. Sorry for that. The Rio Grande. Again, this is a big deal. This is a big river. It's a big deal. Pretty important to us and pretty important to, rivers in general. It runs from the Gulf all the way up the southern border of Texas through New Mexico, and it just keeps going. It just keeps going. And that river, very important. Why? Well, for one thing, it covers the whole southern border of Texas. It can take you from El Paso all the way down to Brownsville. The Red River up here runs along most of the top of Texas. It covers the entire eastern half of Texas. Red River. Guys, it's actually blue. It's not red. That would freak me out. It is blue. I promise. Blue water in the Red River. It's a misnomer, but we're going to forgive it. We have the Canadian River, which might be easier to remember if you remember that Canada is at the top of America, the continent. Not the country, it's on top of the country, but it's at the top of the continent. And the Canadian River is the topmost river on this map right here. See? There's actually a part of Canada that's south of Detroit, and that is a funny journey joke that probably won't make sense until you're much older, because Journey is for old people, and I'm one of them. We have the Brazos River and the Colorado River run all the way across the state. The Pecos River does too, but it's less impressive. Like, I'm not as impressed right here from there to there as I am from here to here. That's impressive. That's less impressive. I guess it's still impressive, but it's less impressive. Then you have the Sabine River, the Neches River, and the Trinity River. And I could be pronouncing any one of those wrong except for Trinity. I'm pretty sure I got that one right. Neches kind of sounds like Nueces, but it has just the E. There's no U, and it's on the east side of the state. That might help you remember it. Nueces is down here by the San Antonio River and the Guadalupe River, so it's with all these other Spanish-sounding river words. The Trinity River, there's just the one, and so it's another misnomer, which, again, being academics like we are, we're going to just forgive that. We're not going to rename it to something that makes more sense. It's Trinity, and Trinity means three, but there is just the one river, and it's pretty tall. It's the tallest of this trio right here. Goes from right over here near Galveston Island all the way up, almost touching the Red River and the Brazos River. Like, if it wanted to keep growing, it could branch off in either way and touch one, but it decided to stop. It decided it wanted to be a solo river. Okay, so now we need to get to the cities that are important enough to warrant a mark on this map. We have Austin, and Austin gets a star because it's our state capital. We have Houston. What's up, H-Town? Nope, I'll never say that one again. Not my thing. And it's right here by Galveston, and we're going to briefly mention this connection because most of Houston's money-making activity started here in Galveston. It got forced to Houston by the 1900 storm, and we'll talk about that later, like when we get to the 1900s. But right now, that connection's kind of important, and I'll show you why in a minute. So we're going to think of this as like the Houston-Galveston Metro, okay? Another metro we have is this Dallas-Fort Worth Metro. Again, they're connected a lot of ways in the economics, which is the money-making, the buying and selling of goods, exchanging, etc. You have Amarillo up here. You have Lubbock, El Paso. We have Brownsville way down here, Corpus Christi, San Antonio, Waco, and then Padre Island, which doesn't get a dot, but it gets a mention. It's like an honorable mention of cities, places. Okay. Then I'm going to switch to a different pen here. So, okay. What's important about these cities, other than the fact that you can probably cover most country music with these cities and not find a song that mentions a city that is not on this map right now, is if you look, you'll notice Amarillo is right here on the river and right here by the Canadian River. The Red River, super important top river we have going on there. Dallas and Fort Worth are actually connected by the Trinity River. Austin is on the Colorado River. San Antonio is not necessarily on a river, but kind of, because it's got a river named after it. It's right by it. And the Guadalupe River, which I know runs very close to San Antonio. The Nueces River runs down here to Corpus Christi, which is actually sitting in its own little mini gulf. And then we have Waco's right here on this river as well. This is that Brazos River, Lubbock's on it, and it goes through the state. And it might look, let's say we're looking black and white, like El Paso and Brownsville aren't on a river, but you got to remember that Rio Grande goes all the way, like so. So every one of these cities is on or near water. And you're like, whoa, mind blown. I know. And why is this important? Why is it relevant? Because if you're over here in the mountain and basins region, you have very limited water. I mean, you have the Rio Grande and you have the Pecos River, and you only have a little bit of that. And that's all the river you got. If you're over here in the Great Plains, again, you don't have a whole lot of river happening. You have some. And up here, you just got a little bit. We have all the rivers in the coastal plains. But for these guys, water's hugely important. It gives you a way to travel. It gives you a way to get places. It gives you something to irrigate so you can get water to your crops so that you can grow crops, so that you can eat, so you can be alive in general. Water's real important over here, even if they don't have a lot of it. So you'll see that many of the big cities that spring up throughout the history are going to spring up near water. In fact, fun fact, civilization itself, like people grouping together and forming communities to live, began near a river. Okay, this map I'm just going to look at very quickly because it's just cool. It's just a cool little map. We have our key over here that shows us what all these little symbols are. And this, in general, woo, that is the money-making empire that is the state of Texas. So I want to point out a couple of things, because if you look at petroleum refinery, right everywhere in the coastal plains, and this one little thing, and up here, you'll see that there's oil over here, there's oil up here, and there's oil down here. We have that in common. These guys don't get the oil. They're oilless. It makes me sad inside. But the good news is that they have wind, and they share that. They share that wind. So there's wind here and in here. These three have oil in common. These two have wind in common. Keep that in mind. I mean, the whole state kind of has cattle in common. That's cattle right there, that funny looking thing that looks kind of like a horse, kind of like a cow, kind of like a cat, kind of like a dog. That's cattle. There's two nuclear, which is, I have mixed feelings about this one, I'm not going to lie. And the natural gas is right by the nuclear. And again, I'm mixed feelings, I'm not sure. And I'm going to point out that the fish looks like a dolphin, and they're probably too large for you to fish. And I don't know that there are any actually swimming in the Rio Grande River, but I think they were trying, and they were going for fish. It looks like a dolphin to me, but I could be wrong. Okay, so when we looked at the earlier map and we talked about the bumpies and how they are the rises in elevation, that's what this map is about. It's showing us, it's a physical map of Texas, and it's showing us elevation. So if you look over here, you get all the way up to 5,000 feet above sea level. What's sea level? I'm glad you asked. That's this. We're at sea level. We're at sea level. Not everybody on the coast is at sea level. I mean, it doesn't always work like that, but we are at sea level over here. So as you go from, say, the Pine Belt subregion of the coastal plains, you're going to go, if you go west toward the Davis Mountains, a shout out for my 7th period, you know who you are, then you're going uphill like that. If you want to go from west to east, you're going downhill. Like, say you want to hang out in the Great Plains and you're like, I'm bored with this, I'm going to the Post Oak Belt, which is right behind the Pine Belt and the coastal prairies. Mentioning the subregions because they're a little bit important at some points. If you're going this way, you're going downhill. So if you're going from west to east, you're going down. But if you're going from east to west, you're going up. Okay?